Hi, in this video I'm going to tell you about how to do some shading. There is a requirement in the assignment that you do have at least one shaded area, so I want to tell you about that. The easiest thing to shade is circles. Here is the equation, the general equation for a circle. Let's say I'm trying to do this eye. I'm going to type in my general equation. I'm going to move until I get to where I want it to be. So I moved it to the right with the H. I'm going to move it up with the K. Maybe move it a little bit farther to the left just to make it fit really well, and something like that. Okay, so now my circle is where I want it to be. To shade that in is the easiest part of shading, is circle. Circle is the easiest. I'm going to show you, I've come down here and I've copied this equation. So I'm going to copy this equation. I'm going to put in my numbers, 2.4 and 4.8, as well as my R. Sorry, let me talk about the R. The R makes your circle bigger or smaller. So however big you want that, that's what the R does. And so I want it just to fit as best as I can. The 1 actually does great. So I'm going to recopy this and I'm going to come down here and show you what I've gotten. Okay, so I recopied it down here and now I just put in a 2.5 and you can see it doesn't fit perfectly. If I wanted to adjust it, I could, but I'm okay with that because once I remove the image of that minion, it's going to be just fine. So that's what I have as my equation. Notice what I did to fill it in was I put a less than greater than. If I go over there and just put a less than only, I'm going to show you, I'm going to hide the minion again. If you only put a less than, you get a dotted line, which is fine, but you kind of want a solid line, right? So to make it solid, you kind of have to use this screen, and that's the only way I know of to do it. So I'm going to make it less than or equal to, and now it has a solid border. The other thing is if I wanted to go the other way for some reason, then I would do greater than, and then it shades it the opposite way. So just kind of play with your less than, greater than, and decide which way to go. The equal gives you a solid line, then without an equal gives you a dotted line. Okay, but I do want mine the other way, so I'm going to fix it. All right, so there we go. There's my eye. I'm going to keep that up there. I'm going to show you a couple of other kinds of shading. So that was a shading that was a circle. What makes that so easy is it is completely enclosed, right? If you had some other shapes that were not totally enclosed, you would get some strange things. Let me show you what I mean. Okay, what I'm going to do here, the wavy part has nothing to do with a minion, but it's just another shape that some people use. So let's say I wanted to do that. Well, first of all, I need to move it down. So I'm going to move it down, and I know that my minion ends at 10, so I'm going to go down to negative 11. Okay, that brings my wave down here where I want it. Now, if I want to shade that, I'm going to go less than, right? I want it to go below. So I'm going to go less than. And again, I have that dotted line there, but if I want to make it solid, I can make it less than equal to. I'm going to test the thing on Desmos. Yeah, on Desmos, you don't have to bring that up. I just tried it. If you just type in less than and then the equal to symbol, it puts it all together, so you don't have to keep using that other interface. Okay, so now I have the wavy part, but it's not, I want it to stop. I don't want it to go all the way down forever and ever and ever. I want it to stop. Let's say I want it to stop here. Well, that line is at negative 13. Okay, so here's my line, negative 13. I want it shaded above that. And so here's what I've done. What I've done is I took the original equation, sine of x minus 11, that was the wave, and I said y is less than or equal to, that shaded it. But then in my domain restriction, it's actually a range restriction because it's a y, but it's the same concept. I wanted to shade it above the negative 13, and so I put that in those braces and made it a domain restriction, and now I have it shaded in that area. I could actually put it a domain restriction also. Let's say I only wanted it from negative 10 to 10. Okay, now I've got it cut off. My shading is cut off. If I turn this line off, then I've got the whole thing, and I just have the shaded part in here. So that is one way to do shading. I chose it with sine, but it would work with a parabola, it would work with a line, it would work with most things. Okay, a slightly more complex one is what if I wanted to make this pocket, and for whatever reason I wanted to shade that pocket. It is a little more difficult. Okay, if you watched the other video on logs, these equations, these exponential equations, are the ones that I used very similar. Notice I went all the way to a base of 100 to make it have that steep of a curve because it's so far zoomed in. I had to make that really steep. So I made that base of 100. But then I used the X and the K and the H to get it down to where it needs to go. Now, if I want to color this in, I'm thinking I might also want a border at the top, which I decided was negative 3.5. And now I have a border at the top. Of course, I need to cut that off from negative 2.1 to 2.1. Okay, now if I turn off my minion, you'll be able to see my pocket. Okay, here's the pocket. If I want to shade this in, it does start to get complicated. And I honestly had to do several trial and errors, and I'm not sure if I even got it. What I ended up doing is on this line here. So I'm going to turn this on, and you can see that that corner is where I messed up. And I cannot figure out how that's messed up, but it is. So here's what I did. I took my straight line, y equals negative 3.5, and I know I needed to go below that, so I made it less than. In the domain restriction, this line is the black line. So that's like a domain restriction, well actually a range restriction. And then for the red one, I did the same thing, but this time I made it greater than, and I made, ooh, that's what it is, maybe? I don't know. That I made that x greater than there, and I'm going to quickly try, what if I made that a y instead? Aha, I fixed it. Okay, so we got it. Y is less than that, that's the straight line, and then the domain restrictions, the other two go in the domain restrictions, and now I have the pocket. So I'm going to turn my minion back on. Here's my minion, and I have filled in the pocket if I wanted to shade in the pocket. If you want to change that shading color, then I'm going to click down so I'm on it, and I'm going to go up to settings. I'm going to come back down here. Where am I? My pocket. I want this a different color. Maybe I want this purple. Okay, now I've got a purple. So that's how you do shading. 3 different ways. Circle is the easiest. 2 lines, because a circle is just 1 line and it's enclosed. 2 lines is pretty easy, and you can go back and rewatch the video on that. And then 3 lines, it starts to get complex, but you can do it for sure. So there is a requirement on the problem, on the Desmos project, to have at least 1 shaded area. You don't have to have them all shaded. You just have to do 1 because it is complicated.